Alright guys, welcome to Frame Chasers. This is take 2 of the 3300X guide. First video was me figuring it out. This video is just going to be a quick rundown on just how to do it as fast as possible, what you need to know, the key points, and the things that you don't need to worry about. So first things first, if you are using 2 sticks of RAM, make sure you look up which 2 slots on your motherboard are the primary slots. I spent about an hour trying to figure out why my board wouldn't go faster than 3200 megahertz. And apparently for the X570 Taichi, slot A1 and B1 are not the primary slots, which makes no sense. Slot A2 and B2 are the primary ones. So I wasted about an hour figuring that out. As soon as I swapped the RAM chips, 3800, no problem. Alright, let's go through these things quickly here. Overclocking bus mode speed, you don't have to touch this one. CPU, VID, any value that has VID, you don't have to touch them, leave them on auto. VID is just what the chip is requesting from, or is it the VRM requesting from the chip? One way or the other. It means absolutely nothing. Don't even touch them. Don't have to touch this, don't have to touch this, not this, none of this. All these first ones, don't touch them. DRAM profile, depending on what memory you have in there, you may or may not want to enable your profile. Sorry, these are the ASRock profiles. Don't touch those. XMP profile is what I'm talking about. So these RAM sticks are DDR4000 CL19. So you obviously wouldn't enable these ones because it's too fast for the fabric clock on Ryzen. So fabric clocks will usually top out at 3800 or 1900 fabric clock. That's the absolute max. So we're not going to enable these. If you have a 3600 kit or maybe a 3733 kit or something, probably enable that. But for these ones, nope. DRAM frequency, if I'm just starting out, I'm going to go right to 3600. Because I think every Ryzen chip will do 1800 on the fabric clock. Just go straight to 3600 off the bat. DRAM voltage, that's going to depend on your RAM sticks. If you have Samsung B-Dies, you can start at 1.45. If you have Hynix CJRs or MFRs or something like that, I would go with whatever is rated on the sticks. It's usually 1.35. And the Hynix chips and the Micron chips tend to not scale with voltage. So, let's say you have Hynix 4100 kit or something like that, 1.35 volts. Just leave it at 1.35 volts, set the frequency to 3600, and then you'll just have to try and lower your timings as much as possible afterwards, and that's pretty much all you can do with those. But we got Samsung B-Die, so we're going to go 1.45 right off the bat. Infinity Fabric, this is half of your memory speed always. If you ever go above half your memory speed, it's going to unlink the fabric from the memory clocks, and then you're going to lose like 30 nanoseconds of performance. Just don't do it. Just always keep it 2 to 1. Or I guess it's technically 1 to 1, but memory speed divided by 2, that's the fabric clock that you're always going to want to do. DRAM timing, start with whatever is on your memory sticks. 19, 19, 19, 39. That's what it is on my memory sticks. Just start there because you know that those chips are validated for those timings. Even if the speed is lower, just start there. It's just the easiest place to start. You're good. 39. External voltage settings. This is the one where all the magic is going to happen here. CPU V-Core. You can leave it on auto if you're going to leave PBO on, Precision Boost Overdrive. So, for this chip, the 3300X, it's actually more beneficial to do an all-core overclock on these ones because the single-core boost is 4.35, I believe. And I think that also reigns true for the 3600. That one, I'm not sure what the all-core boost is on that one, but that one will actually do an all-core overclock that's higher than the single-core boost. When you get to 3700X and 3800X, 3950, those will usually have one really good core in them that can boost to like 4.7 or whatever, 4.6, and you're never going to be able to get 4.6 or 4.7 on all cores on those chips. So I would say 3700X and above, enable PBO. 3600 and below, do all core overclock. So for this one, we're going to do all core overclock. Now, I already know what voltage is good here. We're going to go manual. Fixed. Okay, the difference between fixed and offset. Fixed shoves that number of voltage in all the time, which is fine. That's not going to do anything wrong, but you're also not going to be able to save power that way. Offset mode is whatever your VID value is plus whatever your value here is. So that way, if you're using PBO with offset mode, you can underclock or undervolt it that way so it can boost higher, or you can overvolt it a bit and then add PBO on top. If that makes any sense. But offset mode is good for PBO and for the CPU to be able to downclock itself to save power when it's idling. But we're doing an all-core overclock, so we don't care. 1.4. I wouldn't do this for a daily driver on 7 nanometer. I would do 1.375. 1.38. Yeah, I would do 1.38 for a daily driver on these things if your cooling can support it. The stock cooler that comes with it, I have no idea how good that thing is. You would just have to play with your voltage and monitor your temperature and then find a sweet spot for your cooling. Here I have a 360 mil AIO, so it doesn't matter for me. It's going to be able to cool it no matter what. Load line calibration. This is preference again, depending on how much V-droop you want on your CPU. Where V-droop can be beneficial is, let's say you're doing a bunch of 3D rendering and it's loading all the cores up. You actually want a little bit of V-droop because shoving 1.5 volts into all the cores at once when it's under max load is going to be much worse than shoving 1.35. And usually the V-droop is fine. Like, it's not going to crash the computer. It's the lighter loads that really like that high V core. The heavier ones that can actually run on a lot less. But anyway, we're going to do level 1 because I don't want any V-droop at all. 1.38. SoC voltage. On this motherboard, leave it on auto. In other motherboards, 1.2 volt is going to be the max value here. I would start at 1.1. Fixed mode, 1.1. See how high of a memory clock and fabric clock you can get on 1.1. Keep going, keep going, keep going. If you hit a wall, just keep adding 1.11, 1.12, 1.13, and just go up in those steps until it's stable. 1.2 volt is the max. The CPU will not run faster than that. I mean, it won't run at all above 1.2. But we're going to leave it on auto because I know auto on this board runs it at 1.192 or something, right below 1.2 volts. So that's fine. 1.38. So far, so good. I think the only thing we missed is the CPU frequency. So CPU frequency, every motherboard will be different, but I know in Asus boards, if you try and manually do the frequency, it'll give you like 4 different options of different multipliers and different F clocks and stuff. Don't go into those options, just change the big number. So this is 3800, just change it to 4400 and let the motherboard figure out how to get that 4400. Don't try and do it yourself. You're not going to do a better job than the motherboard is in that case. So 4400, and we got our 1.38 volt over there. That's it. It's all Chorus 4.4. And we got our 3600. So I'm going to skip a little bit here because I already know from the last video where this processor and RAM cap out at. So let's say we do all this, which by the way, you should do one thing at a time, but I'm just giving you the quick nitty gritty. Once you do all this, go into Windows, run OCCT for 30 minutes or so, and if you get no errors, then you can proceed on to the next step, which would be trying to find your max fabric clock and your max memory clock. Don't do your timings just yet. Just do the fabric and the memory speed first. So we're going to go, I already know this chip goes to 3733, which is 1867. Yeah, so I know that these chips go this fast and this fabric clock goes this fast. It won't boot 3800 no matter what, so that's fine, whatever. Chips rarely do, apparently. Like 3800 and 1900 is pretty rare. But all right, so let's say you change it to, this is your max. You go into OCCT, you run it for 30 minutes, and it's stable. You go one more higher, and it doesn't boot or it's not stable. You just leave it here. So then what do you do next? Well, you found your max core clock, which was your first step. You found max core clock at the lowest voltage you can. So you found that. Next, you're going to find your max memory speed and your highest fabric clock. And the reason why you set your initial timings to whatever is on your sticks, unless, okay, hang on, let me go back and change that sentence for a second. You put whatever is on your sticks if the sticks are higher than 3800 or 3733. If you have 3000 sticks, then that's going to be a little tricky to overclock. If you have 3000 sticks, leave them on auto and let the motherboard figure it out. Because if you have really low speed memory sticks, the motherboard can sometimes get them to boot by just constantly cycling the board and trying different timings to get it to work. So if you have 3000 sticks and it's CL16 or whatever, try putting it to 3200 first. And if you go into Windows and it boots properly, you'll see that it might not even be CL16. It might be like CL17 or 18. Who cares? Don't worry about it. We're going to change it later. Just keep trying to up that memory speed and fabric clock, and don't worry about the timings for now. Let the motherboard do its thing. So anyway, these sticks were 4000 sticks, so I know that anything below 4000 at these timings is going to work, because reducing speed and having high timings is always going to work. So next step on the list. Now this is going to be the real cumbersome part. You change one timing at a time. You can kind of skip a little bit. So, like, with Samsung B-Die, if you know you have 1939 at 4,000 megahertz, 1.35 volts, you know that at 1.45 volts at a lower speed, you can go pretty aggressive. You know what I mean? So, the first thing I would try in that scenario, it also doesn't hurt to go one step at a time if you have all the time in the world, which we don't for this video, but let's say you have 37, 33 sticks, and that's as high as your fabric goes. In that scenario, I would go CL18, save quit, run OCCT for 5. You don't have to go 30 minutes, just go 5 minutes. Stable for 5 minutes. Come back here, next number, 18, save and quit. And you go all the way down and you just keep doing it one at a time. Let's say you do all these, they're stable. You go back to the top, CL17, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Stable, you go back to the top, stable, stable. And let's say this is all stable. Now let's say you go back up to the top and you go CL15 and it doesn't boot anymore. Actually, it might boot, but you might get a blue screen on trying to enter Windows, or it can't make it past the post phase. In which case, let's say you have 15, 16, 16. You can go back here to your RAM voltage. Try upping it a little bit. 1.475. 1.5 is going to be your max safe voltage for Samsung B-Die. You can just go straight to 1.5 volts. You might not necessarily want to, depending on how good of airflow is in your case. So the thing about RAM sticks is they become more increasingly unstable the hotter they get. The more voltage you pump into them, the hotter they get. So if you get a really bad case and you are shoving 1.5 volts right off the bat, hang on a second. If you're shoving 1.5 volts right off the bat like that, and you got a really bad case, you might OCCT for about 10 minutes, and then you might get some errors after that because the RAM sticks just like heated up too much to maintain stability. And there's two ways you can test that. You can just put a fan over your RAM, and then if it runs stable all of a sudden, then you know they're heating up too much. That's pretty much the best way to do it, to see if it's heat related or voltage related, right? But I know these RAM sticks, the Viper Steel series, they got really good heat sinks on them, so I know 1.5 volts is fine on these ones. But anyway, I keep getting side railed on my thought process here. So let's say you go CL15, you up the voltage by, 1.46 now instead of 1.45. Oh, we got stability again. Same thing. Go down. Go down. We keep going. We keep going. So I know these sticks already top out at CL14, 3733, which is a pretty stellar overclock. Like, these are really good chips. And they were only $80 on Amazon. So if you find the Steel Series, what is it? Steel Series Viper Steel Blacks or whatever, the DDR4000 ones, 1919, 1939. Those things are awesome. They don't have RGB, but who cares? They overclock like crazy. All right. So I already know these numbers are my max. We go back into OCCT, stress test, works fine. So depending on how deep into this you want to go, you can literally do that same process with every single timing in here. Every single one. So this first time, RAS, you can start at 51, the same number that's beside it, stress test. Works fine. 50, 49. You literally just keep going until OCCT crashes after 5 minutes, or before 5 minutes, I should say. Or eventually you'll hit a wall where it won't post, then you just go back up one and leave it. And you'll find that if you take the time to do that for every single one, you can get some pretty significant performance increases. Like, it just tightens it up so nicely. Because the motherboard doesn't know that you're shoving 1.5 volts into these RAM sticks. It only knows what it's reading off of the RAM sticks. So 51, 51 is probably what it's reading at 4,000 1.35 volts. You could probably get that down to 40 or 38 because you're shoving so much more voltage into it, right? It doesn't need to be that high. But the gains are also diminishing returns. Like, let's say you find the minimum value for 10 of these, you might get like 1 nanosecond. Maybe 1.5. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the thing where it goes from usefulness to hobbyist. Like, you really have to enjoy and love getting those numbers lower in order to waste that many hours getting all those numbers down, if that makes sense. If you want to do it, by all means do it. And the nice thing is, once you do it once on one memory kit, you record all those numbers, and those numbers will 90% of the time work in any motherboard on any system that you have. So, like, my RAM sticks upstairs on my personal rig, I know exactly what all those numbers need to be. So I can change platforms and I'm done. I don't have to do any of this crap ever again. You know what I mean? You just do it once. But anyway, the next timing you want to do for the most performance after the main ones here is TFAW. Sorry, TRFC. What the hell? Where is TFAW? Can't even find TFAW. Might even be a Ryzen thing. TRFC, sorry. This is the one that will yield you the most performance gain for the minimal amount of time. So you already know that 312 is your stock number. You can go down by 20 increments on it. I mean, it's such a large number, it's going to have less of an impact. Like, going one at a time is going to take way too damn long. You know what I mean? So you go 300 to start, go to 280, go to 260, go to 240, and eventually you're either going to hit the wall where you can't be stable in OCCT, or you're going to hit the wall where it won't post anymore. Either or is fine. Once you hit the wall where you won't post or where you will fail OCCT, go back up by 20. And that's your number. And that's going to work. And that will yield you also significant timing gains and actually quite a bit of bandwidth gains too. This is already proving to be such a long-ass video. So, I know this one's already 275, which was my magical number for these sticks. 275, CL 14, 14, 14, 34, 1.5 volts, 37, 33, 4.4 gigahertz, and voltage of 1.38, level 1. Oh wait, I want this to be auto, not fixed. Yeah. And that's it. That is the best settings. Best, I should say, dailyable settings. You can go a little bit more hardcore, but your cooling capacity and things that you have to do to get it better will increase dramatically for much diminishing returns. You can get that debauer cold plate mounting mechanism where it'll move the CPU cooler directly over the core die so that the core die gets the center of the cooler and it's not offset. It's a pretty genius system that he has, and it works quite well apparently. But yeah, for the purposes of this video, we're not going to go that deep into it. This is more for just a quick and dirty daily overclock. You can get this done in a couple of hours type of thing. You know what I mean? And then you can just game on it. One last thing before we save and quit. If you were using a 3700X or above, you're actually not going to want to set an all-core clock. You can set the voltage, that's fine, but not an all-core overclock. Instead, what you would do instead of this, you would go into, I mean, it'd be different for every motherboard, but AMD overclocking, you'll want to find the PBO settings. Manual or advanced, I guess. Max CPU boost clock override is the one that you'll want. So what this does, plus 25 megahertz. So what it's going to attempt when it's using PBO, that one core that's really good, it's going to try and go 25 megahertz above that. And it's going to go 25 megahertz above on all the cores at the base one. So this would be the best way to overclock a PBO chip. Just go up in increments like this. Undervolting. So one last point. The thing about PBO is it will boost higher with less temperature, and how do you get less temperature? You undervolt. The less voltage, the less voltage, the cooler the chip is going to run. So one way to do this, instead of increasing the megahertz and increasing your voltage, also increasing your heat output, you can leave it at 0 or auto and just try and go back into your voltage offsets here. Offset mode, and you're going to go into the negatives. And that's it. So you're going to go -5, -10, maybe start at -25. And you're going to run OCCT. And every time you lower this a little bit at a time, you're going to see PBO boost a little higher. So you can actually find quite a good sweet spot there of it not drawing as much power and also boosting a little bit higher. And every chip is going to be a little bit different. That's also one way to do it. Another way to do it is to go positive offset, have a killer cooling system, like a massive radiator on this thing, positive offset, and then increase your PBO number so that it has more voltage to draw when it's trying to boost higher, and then let it take care of itself. Alright, let me just go back to this. Where are we here? 4400, fixed mode 1.38. Alright, that's pretty much it. Let's save and quit. And let me show you guys the results. Damn, that still took 30 minutes to explain. Jesus. There's just no quick way to do this. There's just too much information, and you can see why it took me all night to figure out in that other video, because it's just, there's so much to figure out. It's insane. These AMD chips do not overclock nicely, and they're not the same. They are a very unique system. Even just the way they're designed is so unique. Alright. Let's just show this right away. I'm going to close my apps here. One sec. Oh, nothing's open. Alright. Okay, good. Move this all back. So, IDA 64. Cache memory bandwidth test. Also, right, one last thing. I'm not sure if it's this motherboard or AMD systems in general, but you can't use IDA 64 to monitor your CPU core voltage. It doesn't work. It just shows whatever your VID is. You have to actually use hardware monitor. That's the one that shows the correct voltages. Yeah, I don't know why. It's just, it happens. IDA 64 sometimes won't read the correct voltage depending on what sensor it's trying to use. Happens all the time. You have to use like multiple different softwares to find the right sensor. Usually hardware info is the most, like that one can like 99% of the time read every sensor on the motherboard. But it's just, it's a messy app. I don't like it too much. But anyway, 59.9 nanoseconds. That's pretty much the best you're going to get on a Ryzen system. So remember all those secondary timings? You might be able to get that down to like 57, I would assume, if you go through every single timing. And whether that's worth it or not, probably not. Probably not worth the time, but like I would. You know what I mean? That's an extra 5 FPS. I would totally do that. Yeah. This is a good bandwidth and latency number for Ryzen. And let's do a quick Cinebench. Make sure CPU is at 0. All right. And we're done. If you have any questions or if I missed anything, post it in the comments down below. I don't think I missed anything, but I kind of did this on the fly with like no script. I just went through it, so I probably did miss something. But yeah, post it in the comments down below, and I can help you out with your Ryzen overclocking. Shouldn't be too hard once you've just followed the guide. There we go, 1180. So that's also a good number for 4.4 gigahertz, right? 4.5 gets you like 1200. Big deal. It's not worth the voltage increase. Yeah, that's it for this video, guys. For anyone that likes this video, share, like, subscribe. If you got any buddies that are overclocking a Ryzen 3 system and just need a place to start, send them the video. And feel free to comment below if you have any questions at all. And I will do my best to get back to you. And thanks for watching the video. If you, one last thing. If you found this interesting, go back and watch the one that's like 3 hours long, because that one has so many nuggets of information in there that aren't just the answers, that will make you understand the whole Ryzen system a lot more, so you kind of know what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people are not going to bother and don't care, but like, if you know your hardware inside and out and you're understanding what's going on, you'll be able to get the most out of it, not just following somebody else's cookie cutter guide. You know what I mean? But anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. I'll talk to you next time. See you later.